Hello, welcome back to Learn Oikonomia. Today we are going to discuss the idea of monetarism in economics. So let's have a look onto the very same here. The importance of controlling money supply to manage the stability and growth. So this is how monetarism deals with. So as far as monetarism is concerned, this is a school of thought. This is a school of thought in the arena of economics, or you can say that this is an economic school of thought. And this economic school of thought was giving emphasis to the role of money supply in the economy. And this particular school says that it's very important to deal with controlling of money supply so as to manage the stability as well as growth of the economy. And they are monetarists are those economists who support the idea of monetarism. So they believe that the key driver of inflation and economic fluctuations would be again the money supply of the economy. When money supply increases, this can be leading to a cause for inflation in the economy. So the idea of monetarism just maintained that money supply would be the main determining factor for GDP. So as far as GDP is concerned, this would be affected by money supply. So GDP is influenced by a factor called money supply. And definitely in short run, this is what is happening. In short run, money supply would be affecting GDP. So this is how you can say it. And definitely when it comes to the longer time period, price level would be influencing the GDP of the country. But you need to understand that we have already learned that money supply would be driving inflation. Money supply would be driving inflation in the economy. So that means money supply would be affecting even the price levels. So altogether, money supply thus would be affecting the gross domestic product of the nation. And these people, the monetarists, they believe that the objectives of monetary policy are very much best suited to deal with the money supply in the economy, and these are best met by something called targeting method. So targeting is very important. You should always have a target. Monetary policy should always target some growth rate, some inflation level, etc. And they should work for reaching these targets. Their main intention should be to work to meet this target. Now, so there comes carefully executing the monetary policy so as to manage the money supply. And central bank would definitely play a very efficient role in this matter, because central bank is identified to be the regulatory body. It is the regulatory body as far as monetary policy is concerned. So what happens here is that central bank would be taking effective policies to control the inflation of the economy, and thus it would be stabilizing the economy. And Friedman, one of the prominent figures in the school of thought of monetarism, he argued that fluctuations in money supply would definitely have its impact on what is called the aggregate demand in the economy. So aggregate demand as well as price levels would get affected as a result of money supply. So what happens is that when money supply increases, this leads to inflation, because price too would be increasing. So what happened? So people will be having more money in their hand, inflation increases, and aggregate demand too would be increasing. So what would happen when aggregate demand increases in such a manner that aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply? If aggregate supply is not enough in the economy to meet the existing aggregate demand, definitely this will lead to inflation, more inflation in the economy, and thus this will lead to again more inflation. That means price would be increasing more in the economy, more inflation or more increase in price level. That is what happens here. Now, so what happens altogether here is that Milton Friedman and his supporters were saying that when money supply grows excessively, it will lead to inflation. And but instead, on the other hand, what is the scenario? Definitely excessive growth of money supply, excessive growth, this leads to inflation. But what would happen increasing inflation or increasing price level? Inflation also just means a sustained increase in price level. So you do not require to say increase in inflation, but it automatically means that there is a sustained increase in price level that happens over here, and the inflation rate is increasing in the context. So, but what happens if the money supply is not meeting its requirements? What happens if money supply's growth is inadequate? Inadequate growth means that will lead to what is called stagnation of the economy. The economy would be having a standstill kind of a situation. So everything, everywhere, there would be dullness. And policies thus would be very much required so as to have some kind of adjustment here. Policies should be preventive methods, or else if there is some problems in the economy already, policies can happen to be curative methods. So policies often emphasize a stable and predictable rate of growth of money supply in the economy. When we say policies here, we can give special emphasis to monetary policy, mainly due to the kind of importance that monetary policy would be having on the economy as far as money supply is concerned, as far as adjusting and managing money supply is concerned. Now, so coming to monetarism, they always advocated or they always supported for a rule-based monetary policy. Rule-based monetary policy means you will be fixing the target. You will be having a target. So this was what I was telling you earlier. So they will be fixing a target and then they will try to attain that target. If it is a growth rate of the economy, they will be having a fixed growth rate and they will try to attain that particular fixed growth rate of the economy. If you're considering the case of growth rate of money supply, the very same thing. If there is some growth rate of GDP, again there would be a target and you will be working so as to attain the target. So what the monetarism as a school of thought says here is that rather than going for a discretionary decision, it is always better for the economy to have a targeted way of attaining its level of growth. It's always better to have a rule-based monetary policy approach. Now, you can say that monetarism as a school of thought was having prominence all over the economy in the 1970s. So during 1970s, it was actually bringing down inflation in the US, inflation in the UK. It had influenced the central bank of the US, and it was allowing the US central bank to take some decisions so as to stimulate the economy during the recessionary phase of the economy. That is what happened in 2008. Between 2007 and 2009, the US economy was suffering a lot, right? So this is how you can see that in the 1970s it was gaining prominence. Again, when it comes to 2007-9, it was getting little importance, but that was not the entire picture. So let me take you to the history of monetarism here. Actually, there have been two people who were contributing a lot to the development of monetarism as a separate school of thought. So first person is called Milton Friedman. He is known as the father of monetarist school of thought. And then you have Anna Schwartz. Anna Schwartz was a disciple of Milton Friedman, and both of these people have contributed a lot to the development of monetarism in our economy and in our world economy or the world of economics. So these two people have written a book, and it is titled as the Monetary History of the United States between 1867 to 1960, and the book got published in 1963. So in this particular book, these two people argue that a poor monetary policy is identified to be one of the basic cause of the Great Depression that happened in 1930. So you know that US Central Bank is known in the name of Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve was actually taking some bad approach, and this was the basic cause of the depression of 1930s. That is what these two people argue in their book. Again, they are saying that the failure of Federal Reserve, you call it as also Fed, Federal Reserve short form Fed. So failure of the Fed so as to offset the forces that were actually putting downward pressure on money supply, as well as its actions to reduce the stock of money. These were acting opposite or acting in opposite direction of what they should have been done. So actually they were moving in these forces were moving in the opposite direction. They were not moving in the right direction, which led to the problems in the economy. So again, this is what these two people argue in their book. So they again say that because markets naturally move towards a stable center. So when we say a stable center, we just mean something closer to equilibrium. It's not exactly equilibrium, but something similar to this. So these people were saying that because market naturally move towards a stable center, an incorrectly set money supply would cause the market to behave erratically, and this is what happened. So erratically just mean the market was behaving wrongly. Yeah. And this is why, because the Great Depression of 1930s happened. That is what these two people are arguing. Again, so what we could understand here is that these two prominent economies, along with the supporters of these people, together, which came to be known as the monetarist school of thought, their ideas again came to be known as the monetarist school of thought, was gaining prominence in the 1970s, as I was telling you. So what happened in 1979 was that the US inflation was actually increasing. It was peaking, and it was 20%. So this made the Fed to switch to its operating strategy so as to reflect the monetary theory. So monetarist theory was adopted by the Fed, and monetarism was actually exploding. It was getting a lot of importance during that phase. But what happened was that that was not a long life for monetarism. Monetarism was fading in the following decades because its ability to explain the US economy came to or it seemed to be a wane, or it was coming down. Its ability was coming down as far as its explanation concerned to US economy was taken into consideration. So altogether, we could say that monetarism, it was oversimplifying the complexities of modern economies, and many critical perspectives say that economy is actually affected by many other factors. It's not like the central bank would be doing everything, but monetarism is actually neglecting the role of fiscal policy. It was neglecting the role of the government. And that was again identified to be one of the important problems. And if you look at the 2008 crisis period, in all the national economies, the idea of government was coming up. So we will be discussing that in a separate session. There is actually a conflict that happened between Keynesianism and monetarism. Keynes as well as his followers always supported the idea of fiscal policy and the role of government intervention in the economy whenever there is a crisis. So here what happens is that monetarism is not concerned about fiscal policy. It is not supporting the role of government here. But actually what happens is the role of government is very much important, especially when you are having some structural or other kind of issues in the economy. So we can say that definitely monetarism as well as monetary policies are very important to deal with the inflation targeting and the use of interest rates so as to manage the money supply, so as to have a stability in our growth. So that is all about today's session. Hope you understand. Thank you for watching. I'll request you to like, share and subscribe to this channel for more videos. You can join our free Telegram community. I'll be providing the link of the very same in the description box. Also, you can download the Learn Oikonomia app. For that also, I'll be providing the link in the description box. That's it. Thank you for watching.